time is now 6:30, so we're going to get started with our special Board of Finance meeting for today, the 26th of September. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item, roll call. Tom Sinkowitz here, Don Cavella.
Yep.
Scott Charwood here. Travis Irons.
Present.
Sid Dumaine.
Yep.
Gary Stalborn.
Yep.
David Saros.
Yep.
Scott Gardner. Here. Very good. One thing I wanted to note for item number 2 is we're going to be looking at accepting the minutes from the September 19th, 2018 meeting. For any of you who might have had an original agenda that was put out before today, it said August 19th, 2018, so that has been amended and corrected, and so we are again looking to approve the September 19th, 2018 meeting minutes.
I move we approve.
Okay, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the minutes being approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to approve the minutes from the September 19th, 2018 meeting. All right. Under new business, to discuss and act upon the financial commitment for the town transportation. So as those of you who know who were at our regular Board of Finance meeting last Wednesday, we discussed transportation, and we also got an update from our representative, Ann Dauphiné, and our Senator, Heather Summers, and they filled us in on a couple items. However, we did not go over any specific figures when it came to our commitment. They talked, of course, mainly about the state side and how much they would be supporting in this. But the big purpose of tonight is we wanted to take the opportunity to look over some additional information, specific figures of how much the town would actually have to commit to buying into this, particularly becoming a membership again for the transportation system, and also how long of a commitment it will be, because I know that's a question that several people have brought up. So we're going to go over these details. A couple of them might be a repeat from last week, just to kind of summarize what this financial commitment will entail. And then we're going to decide as a Board of Finance and actually vote on the decision to approve the specific amount of funding which would be needed to bring transportation back to the town. So to start off, I'd like to recognize our first select woman, Kathy Tendrich, who will start off.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. First, I'd like to thank the Board of Finance for having this special meeting to address this. I'd also like to thank John Filchak for the hard work that he's put into this program, the state representatives for bringing it as far as we have. Just to tell you a little bit about the program, it was addressed back in 2016 is when it started with past administration with NECCOG. At that time, in 2016, the state representative was not for it, so we did not get it in 2016. But past administration did continue to work on it with NECCOG, and then when I came into office, I also continued to work on the program. So we lost transit back in 1998. It was no fault of Plainfield's. It was due to lack of ridership and the financial difficulties that the company that ran the transit back then had. NECCOG came in and took over, and it has recovered. It's a strong transit. It's doing well in other areas. So just a little bit about why I think it's important for us to have it now is because when we had it back in 1998 and it was canceled, we didn't have Bacchus Hospital, we didn't have Lisbon Landing. There has been a lot of growth here, a lot of growth in the industrial park, and I really feel that the need for the busing is beneficial now. Our unemployment and our poverty levels have increased over the past 20 years. There are families that really would use the bus transit from what we understand. We've had letters, we've done surveys, so I do think that at this time, it would be a good idea to have it. The bus would run Monday through Friday, possibly Saturday, a half day, 7 to 5:30 p.m., I believe. It is a deviated bus route, which John Filchak will talk more about, so that you have a full understanding of what that means and the hours. It will provide service to 4 villages, and it will have set stops in those villages, but because it's a deviated bus route, within 3/4 of a mile, it can go off of those stops, and John will speak more about that. Connecticut, the seat bus has service that goes through Jewett City that connects with Norwich, which Norwich connects with New London. The seat bus has agreed to meet us, I believe at Big Y, and again, John can talk more about that, but they're going to come to us, and that will allow, we will actually have bus service from Thompson. If you approve it tonight at the Board of Finance, it will go all the way to New London, and of course, you know, once you hop on the train in New London, there's open possibilities there. So the cost to ride the bus is $1 per ride. I have been told that if you get on the bus and you don't have that dollar, they have not ever refused anybody to ride the bus. So when you think about the families that only have one vehicle and maybe a second person working and could use that to get to work, it really is an economic way of transportation for them. The use of the services, when the surveys was conducted in 2016, doctor's appointments, employment, school activities, and just errands and shopping for some families. The cost to Plainfield is $1.75 per capita. What we are proposing to do is a 2-year pilot program. The state will pay 33%, the town will pay 17%, and the federal portion of it would be 50%. So for us, for a year, to have transportation here, based on our population, the total cost per year would be $26,367.25 per year. Due to the timing of the bus, the service that is going to be implemented, we would not be charged for the whole full year. We would be charged for 8 months, which would come out to $17,578.16. What was put in transportation through past administration from 2016, and it was left there, is $12,486. So all I am asking from the Board of Finance tonight is for $5,100. That will get us to the next budget season, and then of course, it will have to be passed with the regular budget, that amount, so it will be up to the townspeople whether it gets accepted for the second year or not. So tonight, again, all I'm asking for the Board of Finance is $5,100.
And then after this first year, as I'm assuming ends on June 30th, then it would cost us $26,000.
It would be the $26,367.25. It would be put in the budget and then passed by the people when we go out and talk budget.
Okay, I'd like to give a moment to John to actually talk a little bit about the route and anything else you might want to touch on this one.
And here we see the maps, or do you want me to move them?
No, somebody got to turn it.
Perfect for everybody. But let me just give a little overview. I'm the executive director of the Northeast Council of Governments. We operate the transit district and have since it nearly collapsed in 1998 due to some real troubling financial issues. We operate differently than every other transit district in the state in that we do not have an appointed board from the towns. Our board are the chief elected officials. And that's the way it's been, and that's how it's set up in our bylaws. So there is not a separate transit board. If you choose to rejoin, your first selectman will be the board representative for transit. So that's different, and we think that makes it a lot more accountable. So that particular old group ran up, I don't know, $400,000 plus in problems for us that we've resolved, and we are financially quite stable and have been for quite a while. We operate on a deviated fixed route system, which differs from the Southeast Transit, which is a fixed route system. In our system, we have set stops, and then under federal law, there's 3 types of systems you can have: a deviated fixed route, or a dial ride. With our system, and what we'll do for Plainfield is we'll have roughly 16 or 17 set stops with a schedule. We have enough flex time in between those stops to go out at least 3/4 of a mile, or what is logical to serve. And so you're going to get a lot of coverage. And what that deviation means is someone can call a day in advance and say, I live a block off of the transit route, and we'll go there to the door. They don't have to tell us that they have a disability or any of that. There's no registration for that. They just call, they get the ride. Similarly, if they're on the bus and they say to the driver, I need to go half a mile this way, the driver takes them, drops them off. So it's kind of a hybrid between a dial-a-ride and a fixed route system. So it works out real well. There's no asking questions like with a fixed route system. They have complimentary service for people with disabilities. You have to prove your disability and do a lot of paperwork and all that. There's no questions asked on this one. So it works out pretty well. We've been operating that way since 1999, and it's worked out real well for our service. What we're going to be doing is, this other map shows, actually, this is the first time we've shown it in public. Our current service comes down to Big Y, goes over to Walmart, and it stops in terms of the southern end. We've designed now a new route that will go from Big Y down into the post office. That'll be our transfer point. It'll connect with this new route that we're setting up for Plainfield. And then it'll go up 205, back to the center of Brooklyn, back to Walmart. And we'll have 2 buses continuously through the day. One will go sort of down 205 and up 12, and one will go down 12 and up 205. So when someone makes the transfer, there'll be more frequency of it. There'll probably be 5 or 6 transfers the way it's looking at now for a full day between 7 and 5 or 5:30. They'll be able to go towards the center of Brooklyn and into Walmart, or back down from Killingley. So it should be a reasonable back and forth on this. So we'll operate on this orange loop all day long. We'll have a transfer point at Big Y for seat. We're not sure how many times the seat's going to come up north, but there'll be access. So basically, we're going to open up the whole 395 corridor to folks as far as the service goes. As we said, it's $1 a ride. Our drivers are under order not to charge anybody if they don't have the dollar, because not everybody can afford the dollar. And just to put it in perspective, we do about 50 to 55,000 rides a year. We take in about $21,000 in fare revenue. So an awful lot of people. We have discount tickets available with a lot of social service agencies providing them tickets and all. So our main goal is to get you a ride and get you there and get you back. It's not about making money. That's why it's subsidized by locals, the state, and the feds. That's how the transit, all transit, the road out, the highway out here, all your roads are subsidized. This is no different. So it works out pretty well. So we're excited about it. I've been wanting to do this since Plainfield left in '98, and I'm happy to answer any questions about what we're trying to do here. And as far as commitment goes, towns can withdraw at any point with some fair notice, but you're not bound for life and all that kind of thing. All of our programs with NECCOG, except for our property revaluation program, which is a 5-year commitment. If the town chooses to drop a program, they drop the program. That happens. Some people commit, some people leave. That's life. Hopefully this will work out. It usually takes, anytime we put a run in or change a run, it's at least 6 months to a year before it fully gets fleshed out because it gets seasonal. You're not sure what's going to happen, weather related, what different. If it's a tough January, it's a much different look than if it's an easy January. It'll take a while to know what are the patterns here. But we may have identified stops that just aren't right, and we'll constantly be watching it, and we may change this in terms of when we go, and that kind of thing. So it's a work in progress as far as that goes. So that's in general what we're going to try to do. I'm happy to answer any questions for you on that.
So, assuming that we were to approve the funding necessary this evening, what would be the earliest point at which this would actually start?
I think, realistically, but if you approve it and the state were to move quite fast for them, probably November 1, which is why we're looking at the 8-month. Will the state, they seem supportive. We had them down. We had a meeting up at our offices, and then they toured the transit administrator. He toured the whole route here with us, with your first selectman, with the senator and the representative. I think everything on that meeting was very positive, and the conversations have been. I know the director has contacted C directly and had conversations about that, and C has talked to me about, when do you want us to be at Big Y? So the pieces seem to be coming together. Will they come together for November 1? It'd be great, but it's been too long with the state to realize that things are going to happen in 60 days. But I think if it happens and when it happens, that's the big deal. Then we go from there.
If we commit to the 2 years, obviously this year again is 5,100, and then the second year is 26,367. What happens after the 2 years? Could something shoot the price up? Is what I'm saying.
I think 2 years makes sense in that to fully evaluate it. You may need that, but you may decide during your budget process next year that you're not going to go to the second year. That's going to be your choice. That's not really something we're buying. We're not binding you contractually to staying with it. That's a decision for the town to make.
But what I'm worried about is, let's say 2020 there's a fuel crisis. Right? So we know it's 26,367. When would you possibly adjust that price? Because obviously if fuel goes to 450, I wouldn't expect that the state's going to eat all that cost. It's going to come back on the town.
Well,
too.
we've lived with the wonderful fluctuations of fuel, but the dues to the towns, $1.75, which is actually only going up once since '99. That doesn't mean they won't do it next year. That's a decision collectively of the participating towns in the program. They vote on that. So it's not a board. It's your first election, and if it's an unacceptable raise, they're going to have to. They come back to their respective boards of finance, and again, it's a local decision. It's not something that you're locked into, and we'll do that typically of course, fuel goes crazy, but typically we're going to give you numbers in January, maybe February. So there's not going to be a surprise unless there was some crazy disaster, but that's what a reserve fund is for. If we run into that, and that's why we've been pretty diligent about that over the past 20 years.
Is there a way to get data on how much is being used in Plainfield? Once you go along, say like before the 2020 budget season, is there going to be a way for you to tell us how much usage there is that's going to be going on?
I mean, one of the things, and we were talking about this, I guess Monday we were talking about it, we'll be evaluating this on a stop-by-stop basis, literally daily as the numbers come in. So if we can supply the town on-demand numbers, we can give you numbers on a monthly basis and say, okay, how's it doing? I know back in the day, and I wasn't operating transit then, the numbers weren't good back in the late 90s. I mean, pretty bad, which is a reason, along with some other reasons that the town decided on what it did. So, yeah, you're gonna have to look at that and see is it cost effective to operate. Right now, we're doing probably system-wide, probably averaging 200 to 225 rides a day. The largest amount being the Killingly, the Danielson, East Brooklyn circuit we have right now. That can run pretty high for the buses, but you never know. We've got we have times a day in Putnam that we're flat as can be, and not been able to ever figure that out. So you don't know until you run the bus. We did that survey, and there's an amazing percentage of people said, I'm going to ride a bus. I'm going to ride a bus every day. Okay, ride a bus. Let's see you ride the bus. I mean, it's a great concept if you get on, and then we won't know until they ride or don't ride the bus. Yeah.
Your heavy ridership places, are they from like senior housing or things like that?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Your heavy ridership buses, whatever ones, is there a reason to those? You're stopping in particular.
We have, I would say, we have we have a pretty good split between seniors and people that just can't afford a car. One of the unfortunate things or challenges for jobs is that a lot of the, both retail and some manufacturing, warehousing jobs, the start and stop time is not consistent. So the old 3 shifts is like gone. Maybe it still exists for some places, but I know when we had one large warehouse that came in Killingly, and they were all, gotta have transit in here. We did our routes, and we come in there, and they wanted it for 7 o'clock in the morning. We went in there, and we had full buses going in there for like a week, and nothing. They're all gone. And we, said, what's going on? Well, we changed the start time. Well, I can't change my routes. That's not how we work. So we don't even go into the Killingly or Putnam industrial parks unless a customer demands it. It's just a useless ride for us. But going into places where we know there's high poverty rates, going into the hospital, going into different clinics, elderly housing, different public housing complexes, those are the places, and retail. The 2 Walmarts up there, Killingly Commons, those are good ridership for us. Price Chopper, people will leave Killingly and go to Price Chopper, at least until Walmart came in, because it's just cheaper than going to Stop and Shop or Big One. It's just a reality. And at the time of the month, first 2 weeks of the month, people get checks. We have sometimes the buses is standing room only. Gets to the end of the month, nobody has money. That same bus might have 4 people in a given hour. It's fairly predictable. Depending on the weather, yesterday I probably could have shut the place down, and they've saved a lot of fuel. Because I didn't look at the ridership numbers, but I'm going to guess they were probably half of what we normally do.
So that'd be the other thing in the weather, so like snowstorm, which you put it like on Channel 3 that the transit is shut down.
We don't really hesitate to shut it down, in part because a lot of our customers are elderly, and we kind of have a face with most of our customers. We kind of don't like getting them there and then we can't bring them home. So we sort of make that commitment. If we've brought you, we're going to get you home. So it's not uncommon. If storms coming in, we're going to shut down early. We're calling people if they're working or if they're getting their hair done or they're wherever. We have a lot of their cell numbers. We call them and go gather them home. So it's a little different than, it's a little different than Hartford. It's a little bit smaller bus. Our biggest bus is 22 passenger, and our fleet is 10 buses, which gives us the smallest fleet, I think, in the state. It is what it is, but a lot of people without it, they do not get to the drugstore, they don't get their blood test, they don't get to what they need to do. And they got a bum ride from someone.
At the end of the month, you say that some of the ridership drops due to
Yes.
a lack of funding.
Yes.
Do you reach out to those people and tell them they get free rides?
People are well aware of it, but there's a lot of people who honestly don't like the free ride. It's not in their DNA. That's not how they were raised, and especially the older folks who don't like the free one. And in fact, we have some folks that are with some of the senior complexes where there's, we give tickets to whoever the management is, and they give them out like their prizes or however they're doing it, so that somebody doesn't want to hand out, but they get some, oh, I got a coupon, cool, I can ride. It just, maybe it's psychological, and they also don't like getting on the bus, and the other paying customers say, well, who's this freeloader? I mean, so you just sort of learn the tricks of the trade. But you do have a lot of people that just, they don't want to take a free ride.
Do you have any shelters for inclement weather? They go into any of these?
You know, we don't, but most of the stops are built around locations that have heat and cooling. Because
again, Walmart's been, their two locations are great with us, Target's great with us, Stop and Shop. And that's much better than a shelter, a bus shelter. So we really don't have that sort of, the place where you're in the middle of nowhere and it's a three-sided plexiglass thing with garbage rolling underneath it. And we don't have any of those. Plus they're $9,000 a piece, and not including installation, and we've put our money other places.
What do we do? Do you have a plan B for when the state cuts the funding? As soon as the new governor goes in, we're going to get a hell of a lot of cuts.
I'll tell you, one of the reasons that this thing got delayed this last time, in 18, was the governor in the middle of the session put a hard freeze on all transportation spending, $4.3 billion. Nothing was happening. And we were also told for every transit district that we were going to get a 15% reduction in year one and a 50% reduction in year two. Well, I could probably get around a 15% reduction with reserves. 50% reduction, we'd be out of business in short order. The selectmen would have to make a decision.
And would you go back to the towns and ask for more money?
That's just too, we would have a discussion about it with the selectmen, but that's a big nut to 50% on a $600 and some thousand operation. That's a lot of money. To be asking them, come back and say, we're not going to pay $1.75, I need $5.80. You all might not have a great reaction to that. You got, it's a tough number. Thankfully that, didn't happen, and we don't have to have that discussion, but I know the number there was just enormous, because their budget's millions of dollars. It literally would have put thousands of people out of their jobs and out of the ability to get basic necessities statewide.
On one of your charts, it shows a decline in participants. And it says decrease due to low gas prices and winter snowstorms. Are people riding because it's cheaper or because there's a need for it? They don't have it.
You have some people that you can see when the price of gas goes up, the ridership will drift up.
So they're riding because it's cheaper.
Right. And, especially if you've got so many people at the margins that, and like everybody, they prefer to drive their own car. But when we were getting towards $4, that's a breaking point. And that's when you see $2.60 or something, you can see it fluctuate. And as I said, for a lot of people with the jobs they're getting, and even not, and I'm not just talking about minimum wage jobs, but their start and stop time just fluctuates so much. Bus just doesn't work. This is not an urban situation where we're going to have a bus every half hour. You might see that in Norwich or in London or Groton or someplace, but it's just not economic. We've tried buses into the evening. They just run empty. Makes no sense. I run until 8 o'clock at night and stop that pretty quick.
I have a question for Kathy.
Yes.
Will this do anything at all to the current program we have through the Recreation Department? Will it impact it in any way, make it worse, better, or do nothing?
I think actually it will complement it, Ted, because my understanding is from the rec center, they can't fulfill all the rides that they get requests for. So I think it's going to be a good complement to that.
So maybe we should consider enhancing that program somewhat.
Well, if we enhance that program, that's out of our pocket. That's not with the help of the state and the federal.
We do get a grant for that.
We do get a
provide,
grant every
with-
year for money.
Is there any way to increase that grant, or?
In conversation with Myra, that is a settlement.
We deal with a separate stream of funding to provide rides for elderly and disabled persons that qualify in those two categories, which is a match with state money. In your case, because you've got that other program, we're able to leverage money without a cash payment from the town. That program, which I could, if I had 5 drivers that could drive it, I'd have 5 buses out. If I had 5 buses too, would be, it's all over the region. It works really well, and there are funds that match with that. It is a challenge getting drivers, and it's a challenge getting buses.
Run part-time drivers.
We got a CDL with a passenger endorsement, I'll take that.
Do any of your buses, or do you have any cars, or just buses?
Now, under Connecticut law, every vehicle that we have has to have a wheelchair lift.
But you don't go like to the VA in Providence?
We, at the moment, we do not. We just received through NECCOG just under $300,000 to start doing that. We're trying to secure a separate bus, and we'll be doing that over the next couple of years. We'll be providing that service shortly. And because we know that they receive about 12,000 trips from veterans in the north, in my region, just since the first of the year. And there's a huge need. It's been a need for a long time. We want to formalize that, so we're trying to do that.
Any idea when that might happen?
As soon as I can get a bus.
I belong to the Veterans Organization. We meet every Tuesday, Veterans Coffee House.
Yep.
The thought there seems to be a bus would not work. For instance, I don't want to go to Providence at 8 o'clock and come home at 4 o'clock. If I'm in the bus, I'm going to have other people in that bus are going to have different appointments, unless you can somehow work it out. So we all have the same appointment.
And we've had a couple of meetings with, I'm going to forget his name, and I can't pronounce it anyways, the VA directors for Rhode Island, about bundling the trips so that people are going there on days when we can get them in and out of there. We agree, we don't want you sitting there for all day. We want to get you in, do your business, and get you out of there. But we want to do it not just one person at a time, but do half a dozen or more. Get the guys over there, bring them back, and say a 4-hour window. That's the idea. And also use that vehicle so that people that need to just see a doc at Bacchus or Dave Kimball, or need to go to Newington or West Haven, or even up into Worcester or Norwich. I mean, there's all these facilities and you can't get there.
It's easier to get a ride to West Haven as long as you can find a driver or a vehicle available, but you can't go over the line. There's some magic about the Rhode Island line, you can't cross.
Well, there's a magic on the Rhode Island line for transit. We're not allowed to cross the line, but since I'm going to do it with a NECCOG hat, it's different insurance. The state is self-insured for transit. We can buy the insurance. We already have the insurance on with my other hat.
Was there a thought of the veterans taking over a couple of buses? That was bandied around.
Well, I'll tell you, our position is that if you're going to provide a it should be safe by somebody who knows what they're doing. And it's great to have volunteers, but all of our drivers have their CDL with passenger endorsement. They're in a drug program, and you would be surprised, even the older guys would find. You want to make sure that the person driving knows what they're doing, and I think that's the best way to do it. Volunteers are great people, are driving people every day, and that's, you know, God bless them, but that's not how we want to operate.
So they're all on the DOT random program? So they have to get medical cards every 2 years or 1 year or whatever?
How many drivers do you have?
I have, right now, 14,
They're all part-timers?
all part-time.
All part-time.
You'd be one of the younger ones. So we're welcome to come on in. I had a guy that retired from DOT in '78, came to work for this transit, and he last drove, he was 92 was his last run. Unfortunately, he just passed away last year, but, you know, that's pretty good. And as he told me, he only gained 1 pound from when he graduated from high school.
What's that thing you gotta have, a defibrillator or something?
No. We've got dual batteries on these buses, so you get a charge.
As a matter of fact, we have a fellow that drives himself to our meetings, well, up to 96 years. He had his birthday Tuesday.
Yeah.
Walks in and out of the building and tries to go back and forth. Maybe we can get him.
That's the drug program, we're all set.
All right, any other questions for John? No? Okay, how about Kathy? Any final questions for Kathy?
I just have a comment.
Yep, comment.
I'm glad I received this packet. I think it answered about 70% of my questions. I didn't have to ask them. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
So where's the $5,100 coming from, the general fund? Is that the plan?
Fund balance?
Fund
Fund
balance?
balance, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
No.
Ted's pocket.
I'll take that job. Something to do with the sale of a lot, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, it was. We sold a lot.
She's gonna fund it.
No, I'm just asking where it's coming from.
Yeah, that's the
That's
answer.
all, okay. Settle down. I'm allowed to ask that.
You do expect an answer.
Yep.
All right, if there are no other comments or questions at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the funding.
I'll make a motion to approve the $5,100.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the $5,100. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Before we do it, I don't have to mention where the $5,100 is coming from. Or do I? So the
Fund
motion is
balance.
$5,100 coming from
From the fund balance. Yep.
Just want to make sure we're
Yep.
clear.
Yep.
So I don't have to come back and vote again.
No, thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second on that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries to approve the $5,100 from the fund balance, the transportation.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. All right, next, citizens participation. Any citizens participation?
We're just all happy.
Yeah, just thank you.
Only one.
That's all we have to say.
If
Thank
Ted
you.
gets the job, he can't stop at any of golf courses.
All right, if there's no other participation, I entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, second? Second, all right, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Adjourned, thank you.